All right, folks, welcome back to part 6, I think, of my 1/1000 Polar Lights USS Voyager build log. So, a couple of updates from where we left off last time. Um, First and foremost, I've done most of the puttying work here along the saucer. The white you can see there is perfect plastic putty. Yeah, let's see if I can get that in there. Yeah, perfect plastic putty with a little bit for some of the more stubborn areas of some Mr. Hobby or it's Mr. Hobby, Mr. Dissolved putty. This stuff is great. It's literally just like putty dissolved in paint thinner. I apply it with a paintbrush. Anywhere that there's particularly stubborn holes or divots or anything like that, or stuff that's just superficial, where I don't think that the perfect plastic putty is going to cut it. That's what I use for most of it. The exception is if it's something that's a little more structural, and I'll go ahead and pop the chip off. So here on the bottom, while I was installing one of the LEDs, I had a little bit of an issue with the LED. Well, let's just say heating up the hull a bit and causing some damage. So for that, I went ahead. I used some putty. I think there's actually 3 different kinds of putty on there: the Mister Dissolve, the Perfect Plastic, and Squadron Gray. So that's all in place. What I've been doing is gently applying a tiny amount of Mr. Plastic, or sorry, Mr. Dissolve putty, whatever, here along the back to some of these, hard to reach areas. Filling in some of the holes there where the sink marks for each of the different gates are. Going through kind of cleaning up some of the edges here along the saucer. And most importantly, at least in my opinion, is adding in the sensor strips that go along the back of the engines here, which for whatever reason, every model of the ship just seems to omit. So the way that I do this is I start here on the inside. I figured out about how long I want that length to be. It's not too far from the actual engines or from the start of the engines themselves, but it's not quite flush either. So I just used something fairly basic to kind of mark that off. I think in this case I used the back of a pair of tweezers. So that's just about right. And what I did is, just using a little piece of Tamiya painter's tape, I would tape off individual sections. So like first piece of tape was here just to keep this flat. That let me add a little bit of Tamiya extra thin in place to hold that down. Keep the tape in place until it dries. Lift up the tape, move it around to the back, make sure that this section here is flush. Then once that in place, you glue here and then move it over, get that in place. And so now, having just glued the edges here, I'm kind of leaving the tape in place to hold that. Once the whole thing cures, I'll see if there's any loose spots, cut off the remainder, clean up the edges a little bit so they're a little bit more rounded like they are on the actual filming model. But otherwise, that'll be about it. So, also gone through, I've made, some more puttying here along the hull seams, along the front of the engines there. It's kind of hard to see, but yeah. Also, sanded and, did some seam blocking for the nacelles. And I know that's a little bit blurry. I'll see if it'll let me focus in on that. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, I mean, you can see that that's right underneath the nacelle. So I'll cover the Bassard. I'll cover the actual nacelle cap itself. Clean all that up. Make it look nice and pretty and all that good stuff. And then after that, we can move on to actual light blocking. I'm probably going to end up giving this another coat of primer just because it's a little scuffed up, and it'll cover some of the surface defects from construction. But after that, it will be, maybe a coat of black paint, a coat of silver paint, whatever I haven't decided. And then I'm going to start, filling in all the individual panels, mask those off, and then do the base coat of the ship. So yeah, we're making progress slowly but surely. Probably still about a week or two away from being able to finish this once I find some free time. But yeah, so far so good. So, oh yeah, one thing I forgot. Front windows, perfect plastic putty there around the outside. I can't use anything more caustic than that because the squadron putty, the Tamiya, the Mr. Dissolved will all just eat through those windows, and that's something I'm really trying to avoid. So that's all in place. It's all been blocked off. But yeah, so that's about where we're at. Like I said, another week and a half or so to get through everything. And yeah, so far so good. So thanks for watching. As always, leave questions and whatnot in the comments, and I will see everybody in my next video.